So as we begin, I'd like to welcome you again. Thank you for coming out this afternoon. My name is Donovan Carter. I am a graduate assistant at the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program at the University of Florida. Could you tell me your name?
My name is Bernice Johnson, and it's spelled B-E-R-N-I-C-E.
Bernice Johnson. J-O-H-N-S-O-N?
Correct.
Wonderful. Wonderful to meet you, Ms. Johnson. I'm glad you're here today. Could you start by telling me when and where you were born?
I was born right here in Palatka, Florida. I was born in 1954, and I grew up here, and then I moved away for a short period. Yeah.
When did you move away?
I moved away in 1975.
After you graduated high school?
Not right after. I graduated in 72. But I lived in Orlando for a short period, and then I moved to Gainesville.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I lived in Gainesville.
Nice. What did you do in Orlando and in Gainesville?
I actually worked at a 5 and 10 in Ocala. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Are you going to be editing this stuff? I worked in 5 and 10 in Orlando, Florida. And then I worked for the state of Florida in Gainesville for 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, really, really cool. Okay, so back to kind of your upbringing growing up. Do you remember, were you born at home or in the hospital?
No, I was born in the heart of our community. I was born by my mother. I was delivered by a midwife. Her name was Miss Clara Mans. She was a midwife, and she was one of the first African-American women that had her own radio station here in Palatka.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Her name is Miss Clara Mans. And she passed
Midwife,
away, M-A-N-N-S is Mans. And she passed away, let me think here, I think it was in 1997.
Wow.
Yeah, 97. And I got to talk to her because I did not know that she had cysts in my birth. And my mother told me, and she and I became neighbors. And the house that she lives in was my first grade teacher's house. Her name was Miss Odessa Davis. I'm sorry, Odessa Johnson. I should remember that. She and I had the same last name, but we wasn't any relation. And I had the opportunity to purchase her house in 1995. I seen the house on the market, and I didn't want it to be not taken care of. So I purchased it.
That's good. It's a good reason as any to get a house, I say.
Huh?
That's as good a reason as any to get a house, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it really is. Wow. So it's really cool that you got to meet your midwife later in life and you were actually neighbors. That's really, really cool.
Right.
It's interesting to see how kind of birthing traditions have changed over time, especially in the Black community. But I've always had an appreciation for home births and things like that, even though I was born in a hospital. But that's really, really cool. Tell me a little bit more about where you grew up. Tell me about the neighborhood, about like
the neighborhood. The community was a close-knit community. Everybody pretty much looked out for each other. They had the children. The first priority was the children, to take care of the children. And it seemed like everybody became surrogate mothers for other people's children, just the whole thing, because it was difficult for African Americans, colored people, as we go from different labors. We got to be, we were Negro, we colored, we Black, we African American. We got about 4 or 5 labels. Yeah. And so at that time we were colored. And so because it was segregated, we knew our boundaries. And if we did not know our boundaries, our adult mothers, neighbors, friends would keep us in line if we were maybe going astray. Yeah.
Tell me more about that. Could you maybe give an example or a memory of an instance where you've experienced that or seen that happen?
I actually experienced this in church. Yeah. This was after integration came along. And I was in, I want to say, 8th or 9th grade. And I grew up Pentecostal faith. And it was this young white girl in my class, and she was Pentecostal also. She invited me to her church. And I went, not thinking nothing. I'm thinking, you know, we're going to worship God, because that's what we do. And before I could get out the car good and to go inside the church, the pastor and a couple of ladies met me to the door. And they told me basically I was not welcome there. And if I came there, I had to sit in a segregated area because that's how it was going to be in heaven.
Wow.
And what I said to her, I believe it was the Holy Spirit that gave me the words to say, because I didn't know what to say at that time. And I told her she was a hypocrite hiding behind the cross.
Yeah.
And I got in my car and I left. And the young lady, I never said anything to her because I think she was innocent like I was. She didn't know
any better.
No, she didn't know no better either. And I had a friend of mine that I told a couple of people about it that was older than me in my community. And they said, you need to expose that, Bernice. And I thought, no, this is not the time to do this because I don't know how these people, the mindset is not right. And I knew not to do that because I didn't want my mother and my siblings to get into nothing deeper. And I didn't know what the people might do.
Right.
So I left it alone. I didn't mess with it for 30 years. And when I came back here, I happened to see this lady going into the grocery store. And I decided to let her know then, and she denied it. And that was it. And a few years later, she passed on. Yeah. But not trying to justify what she did. But when I look back at it, she was a victim also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she was a victim also. She was a victim of the time, you know, and she probably was taught what somebody taught her, and she was carrying that on.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even in the name of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, that's good. Tell me, so you mentioned that you were Pentecostal. When did you, what was kind of church like for your family? Did you go, I'm assuming you went frequently, every week, twice a week, 3 times a week?
Oh, I probably was in church about 3 times a week. My pastor, they used to have tent revivals. I don't know whether you're familiar with that or not, but they used to come in the communities and set up tents, and I attended a tent revival. And Walter Camps from Gainesville, Florida, he's no longer here either. He had a tent revival, and they preached fire and hell and brimstone, and that's got me, you know, scared. And so I started seeking. They called Jesus and believe in Jesus, and you receive the Holy Ghost and speaking in other tongues as the Spirit of God give you others. And so anyway, when his revival was over, I attended a local church here in town, and my pastor was Elder Toby Crosby. He lived to be 124 years old.
Wow.
And he preached probably up until that time.
Wow.
Yeah, and I reflect back on him a lot of times and think about the things that he was trying to instill in us. Yeah, even without having a formal education. And I can remember him saying that he was 8 years old when slavery was abolished.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wow. That's history. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So And what was the name of the church that you went to, the Pentecostal church?
Refuge Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ, Apostolic Doctrine. And I went there from the age of 12 until I was almost 20.
Where was it located? Where is it?
It's on North 18th Street. It's still there. Matter of fact, Ella Crosby built that church.
It's still there. That's pretty cool.
It's still there.
That's pretty cool. You told me who your pastor was. And how, you said that church was common in your community. Did you have siblings? I didn't ask you that. Did you have siblings?
Oh, yeah. I have 6 siblings. I actually have 7, but my brother was adopted. So I have 7 siblings, but 6 was raised with us.
Wow, wow. And you all went to church frequently?
Yes, my mother, that we had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to church. Let me think. I remember the first Sunday I didn't go to church. That was maybe 18 or 19? Maybe 19? Because I was in college and I moved away. I didn't have a church to go to yet. But I remember reflecting, I was like, oh man, it's Sunday, I'm not at church. It was an odd feeling. So
Right.
I know what that's like. Tell me more about kind of schooling before you went off to Orlando and Ocala and Gainesville. Well, you went to Central High School, Central Academy, I should say.
I did not go to kindergarten. I skipped kindergarten. My mother didn't send me to kindergarten. We had very good kindergarten teachers. Miss Carter, her name was Miss Buford at the time, and she just passed away, I think maybe a year or so ago now, and she was a great educator, and her daughter is carrying on that legacy right now today. And I wanted to go to her kindergarten, but I did not go. And that bothered me for many, many years because I knew that I missed something. I missed something. So then I ended up going to first grade, and Miss Bernice Johnson, she was my first grade teacher. And my second grade teacher was Mrs. Harmon. She was my second grade teacher. And my third grade teacher was Miss Molly Davis. And Miss Mamie Davis was my fourth grade teacher.
Wow.
And Miss Thelma, oh wow, I had her name on it, Miss Thelma Williams. She was my fifth grade teacher. And Mrs. McLeod, I don't remember Miss McLeod's first name, but I know her name was Miss McLeod. She was my sixth grade teacher. And I attended Central Academy Elementary School. That was the first accredited school in the state of Florida for colored children at the time.
Yeah.
And Mr. Leroy Mullins was the principal.
Wow.
And he was a great man. He was a great discipline player, and he was very orderly and very fair, and was into education. And a lot of his children was educators as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And high school? Did you do that for high school? Did you go to Central for high school as well?
I went to when I graduated. What we used to have from 6th grade to 7th grade, we would graduate from 6th grade to go to 7th grade. Then I went to Central Academy. Okay. And I went there, and that was segregated up until I think it was like in '69 or so. That's when it became Palatka Central High. They changed the name to Palatka Central High, and they started integrating with the teachers first before they started with the students.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember your first white teacher? Do you remember who they were?
The one that sticks out in my mind, and she's passed on now. She was a beautiful lady. beautiful outside and beautiful inside. Her name was Elizabeth Snyder, Mrs. Snyder. She was my English teacher.
Wow. What subjects did you like in school? What were your favorites?
What was my favorite? I would say home economics. I like home economics.
Yeah, I wish they had. I graduated high school in 2017, so not long ago. But
Yeah.
I wish they still had. I always have an appreciation for things like home economics or things like shop classes,
Right.
like that they used to have, but they don't really have this
Right.
anymore at all. I could have used a cooking class, I'll tell you that.
Oh, everybody needs that because it teaches you to be self-sufficient.
Exactly.
You can't depend upon nobody to be cooking your food all the time, and you need to know about your monies and different things. Home economics serves a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really life skills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What other? You mentioned Miss Snyder. Who are some other teachers in the high school that had an impact on you that you remember fondly of?
Okay, let me think. Mrs. Who? Oh, when I had a science teacher, he and I kind of bumped heads a little bit. Mr. Boswick.
Mr. Boswick. What about? Do you remember what you would bump heads about?
Oh, you don't know about that one. You don't know about that.
It's okay.
And I like our principal, before the school became integrated, was Mr. Fred Brooks. He was a great man. Great man.
What about him did you admire so much?
The way he carried himself, he was very calm man, very even key, and very fair, I think. Yeah, I think he was very fair.
That's good. It's good when the principal really does steer the ship, if you will. So it's tangible when you have a good principal.
Right.
It really is. Tell me more about, I guess, your graduating class. Do you remember what it felt like to graduate from Central Academy? Do you remember what year it was? Or
you mean the little school going to the big one, or you mean the big school?
Both.
Okay. Well, I'd say preteen, I guess I felt good because I was growing into a preteen and going into becoming a young lady. And so those things felt good to me. I was just when I got into the 7th grade, that's when I was really into religion. I was very, very religious. Everybody knew me as the little sanctified, the sanctified girl with the long dresses and all of that. That everybody knew me by that. And one of my friends, when we graduated, Reverend Andrew McCrae, he tells the story, but I'm not going to tell that story about what he did to me. And I said, in the name of Jesus, and he had to put me down. So anyway, I think about those things. And a lot of people, they respected me because I was who I am, and I'm still who I am, just with everybody. Yeah, I don't try to change with nobody. Yeah. I just try to be consistent the way I am.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. And about graduating high school, can you tell me what that felt like? And
it felt good. It felt good. I wanted to go to college, and I applied. No, I enrolled rather. I think I waited about a year before I did that, and I went to St. John's here in Palatka, and then I decided I want a job, and I left home, and then I went to Orlando and lived with a friend of mine, some friends of mine from here that they moved to Orlando. And then they was having issues, so I thought, oh, I better go back to Palatka. And I came back home, and then about a year later, I decided I wanted to get into the human service program at Santa Fe. Because I was always one of these people that want to help people, excuse me, and so I got involved with the human service program. And that was a 2-year program. And then while I was in the program, I was doing a practicum with special need population. And I had not been around special need people to that magnitude. We had a couple of Down syndromes in our community, which that's pretty much was it. But to have gone, when I went to work for the state, the institution that's on Waldo Road was called Sunland Training Center, and that was in 1976. And I went to work there, and it was mind-boggling for me when I first got there. But I felt like God wanted me there for a reason. And I just say, Lord, what is the reason? What do I need to learn here? It's something I need to learn. And I fell in love with serving those people. And I still see a great need in that. And I learned many things. I learned unconditional love. They taught me a lot also. They gave me a lot, even though they didn't speak like you and I, but I still learned.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love how God really does that, you know. He really, you learn from things that you think you can't learn from
exactly.
Or that you think you know everything about.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
Yeah, that's incredible that you had that experience. And that was in Santa Fe, Florida?
That was in Gainesville, Florida.
Gainesville. Okay.
1976, I started there as a cottage parent. They call them cottage parents at the time. And I worked as a cottage parent for about 2 years. I worked in physical therapy for 9 years. I took care of the pediatric. I was responsible for the pediatric ward. We had a hospital at that time on campus. So my supervisor, she seen nothing but goodness in me, and she seen what I didn't see, and she encouraged me to go to school to become a physical therapist assistant. I couldn't see it. I only seen work. I was programmed to work, and so anyway, I took care of the people. Doing their treatments and different things like that. I got an opportunity to save a few people's lives and do different kind of techniques and taught people how to walk. They was in wheelchairs and never walked. And I experienced the joy of seeing a person get out of a wheelchair and walk.
Wow.
So God has blessed me in those areas.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to more of your childhood and more of your home life, you said you have 7 siblings, 6 of them at the time when you were growing up. So I'm going to ask you about like a different question. So about chores. Chores are never really fun to talk about. But how did you divide the chore? I have 3 brothers, not as many siblings as you did, but my mom, my poor mother, only boys. So she capitalized off of it by making sure we did a lot of like the chores frequently. So what was that like in your home? So how were the chores split up?
Well, basically, we had to take care of the dishes. My mother didn't like washing dishes, I don't think. She prepared the meals. She didn't want us in her kitchen. The only one could be in her kitchen was my oldest sister, because she had her children to feed and she wasn't gonna allow us to mess up her food. That's the way she felt. And which was okay with me. And we had to make sure we kept our house clean, you know, that kind of thing. And we had a fireplace. We had to cut wood. And we had to rake leaves. We took brooms and sweep the streets to keep the trash. We didn't want trash in the yard and in the road and all that. My mama had us do that. Yeah. Yeah. And also I worked in the fields as well. I worked in they call it back in the day, Maycheck. They had flowers. They call them gladiolas. And we had to shuck the bulbs out of the gladiola flowers. We did that. Two of my sisters and I did that to try to help my mother, because my mother was basically a single mother. And so we did to try to supplement her income. And buy our clothes. And I actually went to, I learned how to sew clothing when I was 10 years old.
Who taught you?
I went to 4-H club. I was a 4-H'er. And so I went to 4-H club, and that's where I learned that at. And I made clothing for many years. I even sold clothes and made wedding dresses, did all of that.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that was a burden off of my mother, because she didn't, when you can make something and it costs you less versus buying it, so it was better for all of us.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I made my little brother, he's my little big brother, he's 13 years younger than me. Yeah. No, yeah. 13 years young, I'm 13 years older than him. I made his first suit. And my mother passed away 4 years ago, but 5 years before she passed, we were cleaning her house, and she came across his suit that I made. And it's about the color of that. And she says, Bernice, what do you want to do with this? I'm like, I don't want it. And I said, well, just ask Willie. He might want to pass it to his son or what. But he don't want that. He didn't want it. Yeah, but those were her memories. She was trying to hold on to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Both my parents are the same way. They hold on to things. And,
right.
When I remember when we were moving, we said, okay, we can't keep everything. We don't have enough boxes.
That's
so
right.
what's going to stay, what's going to go. So, and they, so I understand that sentiment completely. So you said you all, your mother cooked, your mother and your oldest sister cooked. You all, the rest of you did dishes, you guys cleaned, raked the leaves, chopped the wood, made sure the street was clean. How many siblings, where did you fall in line?
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle?
I'm being crushed.
Yeah.
Middle children are crushed. They crushed. Are you a middle child?
I'm not. My twin brother and I were the youngest.
Oh, you're twin. Okay, okay.
Yep. But let's see. What question do I have? Did your family have a garden at all? Did your mother
My father did. My father lost his leg in an accident when I was 3 years old. He worked in the puckwood. I don't know whether you know that term.
I don't.
Timber, like wood, that kind of thing. Out in the woods, cutting trees and that kind of thing. And my dad was a small man. He had no business in that kind of field anyway. But anyway, he lost his leg, and he was in an accident working, and the doctor did him an injustice, a serious injustice. He did not clean his wound out, and he got gangrene, and his leg had to be amputated way up. Yeah, and then he spent a year, almost a year in Lake City Hospital, because they had the Lake City VA at that time, and that's where they took him at.
He was a veteran?
Yes, my father was a veteran.
Do you know who he served with?
He was in the Army, and he served in World War II. He got quite a few medals, because when he passed, my husband looked at his, I think they call it a DD 214, I believe. He looked at it and he says, your father got this medal, that medal, and I didn't know what he was talking about. So then he said, you should get those. And so I did. That's wrote good. The people who I needed to write, and they sent me my father's medals.
That's good.
Yeah.
I know frequently Black veterans do not get the honor or recognition that they are deeply deserved of.
Right.
So I think it's good that you were able to get that from your father.
Right.
That's truly amazing.
And then one thing about that was amazing about that. We had a we had a art festival. I think that's what it was called, at the Lyric Center. It used to be the library here. And we wasn't allowed to go there years ago. And now it's a art center. So this young lady, she had some artists, and my nephew, he's an artist from Jacksonville, to come and put their stuff on display and everything. And I attended, and they had a poster there, and it had World War II. They had 60,000 African American men during World War II built the road from Africa to China.
Wow.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was in 1944, 1946, somewhere along in there. And I bought the poster because it just kind of stuck out in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, So when my father died, he had gotten a medal, and it was from Africa. My dad was a truck driver in Africa, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I see the connection.
Yeah.
That's why I was drawn to that poster. And then I did make some kind of connections with some people. I went on Facebook, and it was not just the men, it was women too, during the World War II, that, that was involved with all that. Yeah.
Absolutely, wow. That's amazing. That's an incredible story. I was just talking with another gentleman here who told me that he was drafted after he graduated high school, after he graduated from Central Academy in '66. Do you remember family members or friends getting drafted at all?
I remember a few. The one that stick out in my mind is I was in the 7th grade, and he was in the 11th or the 12th grade, Robert Jenkins. And that's the young man that our school is named after. And I could see a smile. I could see a smile from the time I was a small child to even today, because it was something about him. And he went to Vietnam, and he ended up laying his body on a live grenade to save his fellow soldiers.
Wow.
And he gave his life. And I guess that's why they named the school after him. But he wasn't from Palatka originally. He's from Interlaken, because back in the day, Interlaken didn't have a school, didn't have a high school. So the children from Interlaken and that area, they came to school in Palatka. But now our school, which is the Jenkins Middle School, that was Central Academy, Palatka Central High, now it's Jenkins School, they have decided they close that down, and that his name is going to go to Interlaken. Yeah.
Wow. So, wow. Do you remember, did you do any clubs at all in high school? Like, were you involved in any clubs or sports when you were at Central?
No, when I was in school, like I said, I was Pentecostal. Pentecostal was a whole different ball game, meaning that you couldn't get involved with anything but the Bible, and that's it. That's it.
Jesus.
That's right. Then I had to find out it's more to that. More to that.
How did you get to school every day? Did you walk?
I walked.
How far did you live? How long did the walk take?
For me, probably 15 minutes, if that. It wasn't very far.
Would you talk to other students? Well, I also know that a lot of students walked. So would you
we all
was walking there like a social event?
Yeah,
a social thing?
we all gathered together and walked to school. Yeah.
Do you remember who you walked with?
Oh yeah, Joyce White was my neighbor, and she and I was in the same class. Jeanette McCoy, she was my neighbor. It's just a group of girls. Belinda Jones. Let me think here. no guys. Girls walk with girls pretty much, and Vivian Chandler. Those were my friends.
That's sweet. That's awesome. What was the route you took? You always just walk, like, I guess, up, down a few streets? So you kind of mentioned about your home economics was your favorite class. And you said you didn't like Mr. Boswick. But
he was all right, but he wasn't my favorite.
Right. I want to ask about the school. What if you could go back to yourself if you could give yourself advice for when you were kind of leaving high school, or in high school, I should say, what would you tell yourself if you could, like, go back in time and tell yourself something?
I would have gotten involved with more things in my school. Besides being religious, I was closed-minded for me.
Yeah.
And I needed some guidance with that. And I don't think the people understood that like they understand now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that over time, sometimes religion becomes more a ritual thing and less on the relationship between a person and with God.
Right.
So I think that kind of and expanding horizons I don't think is ever a bad thing, or is contrary to the faith, or like kind of expanding horizons and trying things, especially as a young person.
Right.
Do I have any other questions? That's good. That's good advice. I think I would tell myself the same thing. I think I would say, try and, like, just get out there more, take more risks. I think I would tell myself.
And to relax.
Yeah, relax.
Relax. Take
relax.
a deep breath.
Breathe.
Take a deep breath.
That's good advice too. Relax. Yeah, it's funny how for such a long part of our lives we learn to worry about different things, and it's like when we're younger, we worry about stuff that, as of now, seems irrelevant and completely unimportant.
Right. But I think for African American people, because I was telling somebody this today, I was thinking about the family structure, and I said to them, like our people was taught to be studs to produce children, but they was producing it to have more manpower to make wealth for another group of people. And some of our people they don't understand where that mentality come from. So they continually act upon that emotion. They haven't came to realize where that came from. And when you just plant your seeds everywhere, it's all messed up. And that's one thing I would hope that the younger people understand, that they need to not do that like that. Right. That's my thinking. Yeah. Because your family is, if it's coming from too much division, it can't be a solid foundation.
Absolutely.
It's not a solid foundation. It might appear to be. You know, you're laughing, you're eating, you acting like you're loving everybody, but underneath, you better dig deep, because there's some stuff up under there. Yeah. You know, and that's what I see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Do you have anything else you want to add, or any questions for me at all?
No, I don't have any questions. I just hope that this work that we're trying to do and trying to preserve our history, I hope it's not in vain.
Absolutely. Because
we've lost a lot, and our community continue to lose. We have Central Academy, the first accredited school, and if you go by there, you would just, your heart would ache. It would actually ache. And to let that have gotten in that kind of condition, and now it's Jenkins. And so you continue to scatter the people, you know, and it's not good.
I agree.
It's not good.
I agree. What do you hope for the future of Central Academy? What do you hope for?
Well, I hope that they could utilize the school for some activities in the surrounding area for our community, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Ms. Johnson.
You're more than welcome.
I really do appreciate it. Let me see if we have anything else over here for you. No. Thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome.